Okay, so this one should be pretty quick. I'm just going to cover a little bit of what I'm going to be talking about in my podcast tomorrow, and hopefully you enjoy this or not, whatever. I don't care. I'm tired, as you can see. I'm all puffy. It's gross. Um, and I've been having no sleep whatsoever, but whatever. All right, let's get into this. So, the difference between cultural and economic or political Marxism. It's really quite simple, but I've seen a little bit of conflation between Marxism and socialism and communism, and I just wanted to kind of outline the whole difference between all three of them because they are pretty distinctive different things. Um, and it's rather simple. I'm going to simplify it so that it's a little bit easier to digest. So first, communism. Basically, the idea that all production belongs to the state, essentially. Like everything that is ever produced ever is state run. It's government owned, essentially. So you don't have to worry about anything. Government will provide everything for you. Um, China is a big communist country. Over there, everybody gets a cell phone. Everybody gets a crappy cell phone, but everybody gets a cell phone. Everybody gets the plan that the government gives, but in turn, they can monitor everything you do and say on your phone. Literally, they will monitor everything. Same with the internet. Everybody gets internet, but everybody gets internet monitored. Now, what this does is put a major burden of taxes on everybody, so it keeps everybody poor, basically. It also requires the state to have a major infrastructure to monitor all this stuff. And subsequently, because there is no real competition in this kind of thing, then what happens is your infrastructure kind of sucks. Like getting faster internet out to everyone is a pain. There is no direct competition to have the better, faster, quicker because everybody has it, right? So it's a little bit stifling. And then there's socialism. And I'm going to combine democratic socialism with socialism because they're pretty much the goddamn same thing. Political scientists will argue with me, of course, but I really don't fucking give a shit. Basically, it comes down to socialism is the production or the means of production. It belongs to everyone. It's a social thing. It does. There's no government owns anything. It's people owned everything. But what typically happens is the government steps in to make sure the people owns everything, and then you once again have a dictator. Look at the um, menial outcome of socialism in Venezuela, for example. It was kind of okay when everything was working and they had high oil prices because they put most of their infrastructure in there. But once the price per barrel dropped, they're fucked. Now everybody's starving. Everybody's fighting for food. They're out there killing cats and dogs so they can have something to eat, stuff like that. It's really kind of ridiculous. And it's all because socialism was a grand idea over there. Um, there's other problems with that too, where some of the social programs you would think are socialist, like utilities, for example, there's still competition within that whole market space in a capitalist society. But in communist or socialist society, basically they take half your income and provide a bunch of different services for you, thus keeping everybody dirt poor, basically. But those that provide the services get paid more than everyone else, of course. And then the state can also step in, and then it gets real nasty, and socialism ends up never being a good idea. Of course, if you ask any socialist, true socialism's never been tried, according to them. It's ridiculous. But then Marxism has nothing to do with either one of those, which is fun. Both of those are basically an approach to an economic solution, because capitalism being the third, and probably by standard everywhere, the most successful. But Marxism has nothing to do with means of production, really, or anything like that. If you look into Marxism a little bit, where it disconnects from the political landscape is the power dynamics that they associate. So in Karl Marx and the Frankfurt School and um, a couple other books like that, basically what they'll describe is a power struggle between um, You probably heard the bourgeoisie and the proletariat.
Oh. Damn it. Gotta start again.
Proletariat. Hate that word. Really, the way I sum it down is the have versus the have-nots is usually what it means. There's a group of people that pretty much own and have everything, right? They're the wealthy, the super rich. Back in the day, they were the feudalists, they were the lords, they were the dukes, the earls, whatever. Somebody with a title pretty much owned you and your land and everything around you. Basically, you had to pay taxes to them, whatever they decide those taxes were, to work your field that you probably owned in the first place, but they decided was theirs. It's a feudal system, was probably the worst example of Marxism, because the haves would often take from the have-nots and abuse the system. But then stepped in the republic, as it were, not the democratic system, but the republic system, where power went to the people, essentially. And then basically the have-nots had the deciding factor of who would be in government and who would essentially run things. And it would be an elected person by the working class instead of the ruling class. But that's what destroys the black and white thinking of Marxism. So there's that, and that would be more of a political Marxism, the have versus the have-nots, the elites versus the working class, right? There is no middle class in the Marxist lens. Either you have or you do not, basically. And there is no middle ground for that. If you don't have everything and you're not in the top 1%, for example, then you're a have-not, is essentially what it comes down to. You versus Mark Zuckerberg, to give an easy example, or Bill Gates, or Donald Trump. Oh, that'd be fun. But anyway, so there's that, and then there's also cultural Marxism. Now, what I found interesting and funny about the existence of cultural Marxism is not too long ago, I would say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it was considered a conspiracy theory to say that cultural Marxism exists. Now, I read this in a few different articles and newspapers and whatnot, and the fun thing is when I started researching for another bit I did about my white privilege and my male privilege, in the feminist articles, they literally and explicitly called out that they weren't Marxist enough, that they, rightly so in some of them, actually used a good Marxist lens. It was very bizarre to even read this shit. I was like, Marxism back in the 70s and 80s was a cool thing in feminism? Well, that explains a lot. They've developed quite a bit over 40 years, haven't they? So, when you hear cultural Marxism today, it references the same kind of dynamic, the have versus the have-nots, but it now puts it in a different lens, but using the same black and white thinking. And that's kind of the key component here. So what you have is those in power versus those in not. So what they look at typically is who holds the most powerful positions. White men. That's what they care about. Those two dynamics. So therefore, black versus white is a proper Marxist lens to have, because white people own things, therefore black people should oppose them in every sense of the word. Same thing with feminism. Feminism before intersectionality, which intersectionality is kind of a part of it. Basically, women didn't hold the power positions, therefore need to oppose men, making a power struggle between men and women, which has a gambit of problems. Destroyment of the home, single family, living, poverty, rising, all sorts of insanity. Instead of men and women working together, now it's men and women competing against each other. Not that the competition for, say, jobs or political influence or stuff like that is not okay. In fact, it is okay, and more power to anyone that decides to do that. But what they've done is created the dichotomy because it's man versus woman, because all men hold a position. Therefore, we are naturally oppressing the woman, because that is a part of the Marxist lens. As with the haves versus the have-nots, all the haves naturally oppress the have-nots. Because you're a feudal lord, because you're Mark Zuckerberg at the top Fortune 50 companies, you oppress those that you employ. You oppress those that do not have anything naturally, just by being in a position of power. You must necessarily then oppress those beneath you. When the Marxist lens was applied to demographic information, you get feminism that says all men are oppressing women, when that's not the case in most cases, especially in the Western societies. But it must necessarily be true if you apply Marxism to the power struggle, and then evidenced by the positions of power, as they put it. And that mere fact that more men seek positions of power than women is then aligned with the Marxist assumption that there is a power struggle there. So that's pretty much the difference. I hope I kind of spelled it out succinctly, as it were. There's a dynamic, a power struggle. Political Marxism is more towards socioeconomic. Cultural Marxism has a lot of different frameworks that it can function in. The easiest example is men versus women, because feminism is cancer. Hope you enjoyed this one. Real short one. I'm trying to make them simpler because I can't stay up till midnight and kill myself every single time I try to make a video. As evidenced by my face with the bags under my eyes and my wife being sick and my kids being up and all sorts of other happy shit. So I may or may not make a video tomorrow. I haven't been posting my podcast to my YouTube channel, but I think I might start doing that, just recording myself talking for an hour. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Those weren't well received when I actually did have regular viewership, so we'll give it a go. See how it works. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Enough. Don't ever try to flatter me or you'll be sorry. I don't like it.